The Government of India last week appointed a new commission headed by former Chief Justice of India, K.G. Balakrishnan, to examine whether Dalit Muslims and Dalit Christians can be accommodated under the rubric of reservation for scheduled castes. It has a historical background. In India, the Hindu community was hierarchically structured, in which at the bottom were the so-called untouchables, who had been historically exploited by the upper castes. That's the reason why in the Constitution of India there was a clear provision that those who belong to those traditional untouchable groups will be christened as scheduled castes, and they will be given special privileges in terms of their representation in the legislature, in jobs, in educational institutions. There was a large degree of unanimity in the Constituent Assembly over this issue. But soon after the Constitution was implemented, enforced, questions arose about whether those from the Hindu community who have converted to other religions over a period of time, should they also be allowed SC status? As per the constitutional provision, they were not to be. But in 1956, the Government of India, the then government headed by Nehru, came under pressure from the Sikh community, and it was decided that the traditional untouchables who are converted to Sikhism will be brought under the rubric of scheduled castes and be eligible for all reservations. Thereafter, other communities kept on protesting, but the government refused to listen. It was again in 1990, there was again pressure of the international bodies within the country. Buddhists were given this status. Buddhists were brought under the scheduled caste status, and they started, those Buddhists who had traditionally belonged to the Hindu community but had converted to Buddhism over a period of time. Ever since, there has been a demand of Muslims and Christians who have been left out of this fabric. That's why there was a pressure in 2004 when the Congress came to power after a long gap. The pressure of the Christian and Muslim Dalits was so much that the government appointed a commission, Ranganath Mishra Commission, basically to look at the issues arising out of this reservation and whether these these religious minorities could be brought under this if they have converted from Hinduism to Christianity and to the Islam. Ranganath Mishra Commission submitted its report in 2007 and categorically observed that these Dalit Christians and Dalit Muslims have gone through the similar privations and continue to be exploited in their new religion, and they should be given the benefit of reservation. In 2005, again the Congress government appointed another committee headed by former Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, Rajinder Sachar, to examine the condition of the Muslims in the country. Such a committee report came out in 2006, and that also categorically said that Dalit community who had converted to Islam has been going through a very harrowing time, and they certainly deserve the benefits of reservation. One committee, one commission, their recommendations were unanimous, but the Congress government dilly-dallied over the process, refused to pay heed to it, and under one pretext or the other. So that's the time the BJP, as the opposition party, had strongly opposed the recommendations of both the Ranjanath Mishra committee as well as the Sachar committee. And that's why when the BJP came to power in 2014, obviously they did not pay heed to it. They had been consistently opposed to the very idea. But there has been a lot of petitions within the Supreme Court, in different courts, and now it's lying in the Supreme Court. A Dalit Christian group had filed a major petition in Supreme Court in 2020, and that petition was recently taken up, and then the Supreme Court asked the central government to give its observation in writing within 3 weeks. And that is the time the government of India obviously do not want any controversy at the moment, especially when the elections are just about 18 months away. And that's the reason they have come out with this commission, Chief Justice K.G. Balakrishnan Commission, and have given them time for 2 years to come to a conclusion. So, by the time the report of Balakrishnan Commission comes out, the 2024 election would be over. So, in order to fob off this process, this judicial process, this step has been taken. So, both the ruling parties, the Congress and the BJP, over the last 30 years, in fact, you would say in the last 75 years, have consistently sidetracked the issue of giving reservation to converts to Christianity and Islam from the traditional Dalit community. And that's the reason we need to raise this question. As the different committee, it's not simply Ranjanath Mishra Commission or Sachar committee. There have been several committees which have been set up by the minorities commissions and various different bodies, and they have all come to the conclusion that there have been enormous exploitation for the lower caste people within the Islam and Christianity groups. And Professor Imtiaz Ahmad, the well-known sociologist, wrote a book about caste and Muslims. So caste and within the Muslims cannot be whisked away. Ali Anwar, who leads the Pashmanda movement, obviously raises these questions about how the lowest caste Muslims have been exploited by the upper caste. And within the Christianity, we know the converts of Dalits, they have been given separate churches, separate cemetery. They have been excluded from the upper caste Christians. That is a question of ground reality, even in a question of a principle. Look at the principle. In the principle, if the Hindus were to be given, then why is it that Buddhists and Sikhs were given the exceptions? If Sikhs and Buddhists were given exception, then similar exception can justifiably be made for Muslims and Christians as well. And second, why is it that other reservations for the scheduled tribes and the reservation for the OBC or the backward caste, why is it in these reservations Muslims and Christians have been brought under the purview? Why not under the scheduled caste? That is a very clear discrimination, and that discrimination must come to an end. Thank you.